Now in commentary as we get set for Pirelli Porsche New Zealand, race 3 of the weekend by Stu Owers, who knows the class incredibly well, has raced himself, of course, and Ronan Murphy with us in commentary too. Number of classes will do battle in this one. In terms of an outright story, though, very hard to look past Daniel Angus and what he's achieved so far this weekend, Stu.
Exactly, and he looks like if he has a good race this race, he's likely to not only win his class, but he's going to wrap up the Motorsport Championship. So we've got a big trophy down there for him if he does, and then he goes down to the Motorsport New Zealand award ceremony down south, and he will get the Motorsport New Zealand Championship trophy. But there's a lot else to be decided as well. We've got a whole lot of class. We've got about 20 trophies up there. So we're going to have our own Porsche Club glittering occasion this afternoon with class championships, and we've got a club championship to be decided, an endurance trophy that's going to be handed out, all sorts of things. So there's a lot, and all of those, apart from Daniel Angus, are still on the line.
So rightly, some of these people will get to enjoy some champagne later today. So this is the all-important one. It's been fantastic to have the Pirelli Porsche Championship with us regularly on the tour that is the Next Gen NZ Championship. Angus again starting from pole position. Nicholas Cupfield's been a great story in the series this year. The way his emergence, what he's been able to achieve on the front row, superb effort. Tony Austin in the 71 there, the Cayman. We drift back a little bit further. There are the 944s in the hands of, say, Tim Robinson, for example, and then we get into this armada of Porsche Boxsters, both the 2.7 litre class and the 2.5 litre, and the racing in both is fierce. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Well, look, we've seen already this morning 4 wide going in turn 1 and turn 2 and almost turn 3, and then they get down to the normal side-by-side racing, which is just, they seem to be able to do lap after lap, side-by-side. So, but look, there's a lot at stake. There's 2 Boxster trophies and a big overall Boxster trophy coming up. So, and none of that is decided yet.
So, field starting to make their way up into their grid positions. Nice warm conditions for the afternoon here at Hampton Downs. We might be into autumn, but it's got a little bit of a summer reminder for us, if you like, in terms of the temperature. So that track vision entry to your right is Nicholas Cupfield and the Kensway backing, and Kensway have been superb partners with us, along with Pirelli of the series. What's that there? 3 minute, what's that, 3 minutes?
So that's his compulsory stop time.
Of course,
so
well
he's
done,
got the
well done.
longest stop of anybody, 3 minutes 28. It's a handicap race in terms of them having to have a certain amount of stops. So some of the boxers get a drive-through, and you go all the way up to Daniel Angus with a 3.5 minute stop.
So a self-policing scenario, and that's a great little reminder to the crew, isn't it? We need to hit that number, basically.
Exactly, so. Yep. Obviously, they get penalised if they break out and, all this sort of thing. But yes, it's here we go.
Revs rise, the unmistakable sound of Porsches. It's like an orchestra here at Hampton Downs, and they play. Away they go. Angus leads into turn 1. Cupfield slots into second, then it's the Cayman. They're all away, it seems, fairly cleanly. Yep, through turn 1. Nice job, Ronan.
Yeah, great job there from everybody. Got through there cleanly, as we've seen from the first. Oh,
he's been turned around. There's Daniel Gross.
Moment for Daniel Gross. That was a bit of Tokyo drift on the entry into turn 2 there.
Not helped by the commentator's curse from me. Apologies to Daniel. But what that does, Stu, is that helps Tim Robinson 4th outright as far as the 944 class is concerned.
Exactly, yes. And that's a valuable point. It means he's not going to be challenged now by Daniel Gross. So he's almost got both hands on that 944 cup right now. So he'd be delighted. He can just ease back that little fraction.
And Stephen Fang's managed to take the lead of the Boxster class there. He's out there in 6th place behind Stephanie Chambers by the looks of it. Tim Robinson's actually moved up into 4th.
Yes, and that's exactly what Stephen needs as well. I think he can actually finish 2nd for Stephen Fang, and he'll still win that class, but there's a lot of challenges behind it. And then we've got teenagers. We've got 2 teenagers fighting in the 2.5 class. We've got Jacob Bellamy and Ashton McCorn, and you just see them starting to come up over the rise there now, and it's between those 2 for the small block boxers, the little 2.5 litre ones.
Looks like Daniel's been able to get that 944 pointing back in the right direction, is starting to endeavour to make his way back through the field, but how far he can climb for Daniel Gross remains to be seen. Where is he at the moment? Down in position 16. Here we go, let's a little look at it again.
I actually think he did that alone. I think
he might be right,
yeah. Maybe just tried to turn and brake a little bit too hard in the rear of the car, didn't want to follow the front.
There's a little bit more of a kerfuffle there as well. It wasn't. That's where all the dust came from. A couple of the boxes went wide coming out of there as well.
And we see there the top four, the top two have really pulled away, and then the bit of a gap back to the third and fourth place cars, and another gap back to Tim Robinson there in fifth, who's the Lone Ranger in the 944s there. He's unfortunately lost Daniel Gross, his main rival there, and then Stephen Fang's a little bit further back in the 88 car, first of the Boxster cars, so he's doing a great job out front there, leading that class.
So this is the chance for Daniel Gross. He's got, sorry, not Daniel Gross, Daniel Angus. He's got clear air in front of his cup car there, and he really needs to put his head down. He's got that massive pit stop coming up, so he needs to make the most of that while he's not lapping cars. He's got no traffic there, and he's going to go for it.
This is a great, you two earlier today, before we came on air, had a little walk down memory lane over the various iterations of Cup car, for example. I know we're looking at the Cayman at the moment, it's currently in third place. But, I mean, you were talking about the derivative being raced by Steph Chambers and the early kind of nature of that and how close it was to the road car versus the modern gen car, which is just this beautiful, you know, its origins might be from a road car, but it's a purpose-built racer at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, massively, and that's, you know, some people ask the question, they go, oh, what's the difference between a GT4 car and a Cup car or something like that? And it is very much that originally the Cup car started off as a road-based vehicle, but it's very much become a purpose-built hardcore race car. The GT4 cars are more still road car based, obviously a racing car, but road car based, so they're a little bit softer in some ways. I guess you could say, you know, the Cup car, when you drive them, they're hard, they're just raw and stiff, and they do everything that you'd expect from a really well fine-tuned race car. So obviously over the years Porsche have perfected that, and really, you know, they're now at the 992 derivative of the Cup car, and really found a really good, solid, fast race car. And you know, for a while there, we start off there, we see Steph Chambers in the 996, and then we went to the 997, which then became the 997 Generation 2. And then moved on to the, as we said there, Daniel Angus is the later model, the 991 Generation 1, before going to the 991 Generation 2. We're now at the 992 Generation Cup car. Very confusing with all the different derivatives and points, but
for outsiders, it's incredibly confusing. They've all got a massive wing on the back. They all look pretty much the same.
They sound sweet and they're fast.
But just to give you an idea, Stephanie's in there. She's changing gear with an H-pattern gearbox, just like the road cars came out. Then they went to the old straight pull-through gear levers.
Sequential.
And this car we can see on here now, that's just paddle shift. So that's quite a difference. Just that alone makes it a lot easier to drive.
And a question for you, Stu. Do you think we'll ever see a 992 Generation 2 Cup car?
I think things are changing dramatically over in Germany. You know, they've decided that, electric cars are not quite what we thought they're going to be. And they're starting to say, no, we need more ICE engines for the customers, for everybody else. It's not just Porsche, Audi, well, same group, but Ferrari. All these people are deciding, no, we need petrol engines. We can't drop those. That's what the customers want.
And just to wrap up this point, I know we've had a little look at the timeline here of the different generations of Cup car. I immediately am drawn when you look at Steph Chambers' car, for example, to Jimmy Richards, who was the king in Australia in that car. And then in the years that followed, of course, Craig Baird chalked up a very special piece of history. And you correct me if I don't get this statistic right, but he was the winningest one-make Porsche driver in the world. That style of car, he was incredibly good, wasn't he?
Yeah, Craig Baird, or Bairdo, he certainly found a niche with those Cup cars, and he was
dynamite,
lightning fast in those 997 Generation cars, particularly. He was a bit of a legend in those cars, and as we said there, Daniel Gross is in the lane making his pit stop. But going back to that point, Rusty, it was a pretty cool period of Porsche racing in Australia, and seeing someone so dominant and so good behind the wheel of those cars. And for a period there, we actually had a championship here in New Zealand.
We did,
with Cup cars racing. And
Beardo was out racing here.
He was, and we saw a lot of Australian guys come over and run. I think David Reynolds is probably a notable one of those. So, and plenty of the teams that still run today were running those cars.
The interesting thing about both Richards and Beardo, you're quite right. They were absolutely dominant in their eras. So Jim Richards started with the 996. But when they changed the cars, they couldn't quite adapt. It was quite amazing. So Jim Richards suddenly fell off. Beardo took over. He was dominant. They changed models, and he suddenly dropped off as well. So you had to have that intimate knowledge about how those cars work.
And it shows how much the formula works over in Australia, doesn't it? You know, that we saw we saw the likes of Matt Campbell, Jackson Evans, become factory Porsche drivers for a period. Matt Campbell's obviously running for Porsche Team Penske in America in the IMSA program, so he obviously was the leading light of where your Porsche journey can take you, especially on an international stage, sort of like what Mark Webber was saying in the story earlier, Rusty.
Yep, from this region, from this part of the world, and it's certainly an aspirational thing for young Kiwis, a thing that is achievable. And I love the fact that there's great history in this Pirelli Porsche series, and we're celebrating it with all sorts of different classes at the moment. So lap traffic here, obviously, for Angus to, given it's a half-hour race, to make his way through, and he's built in the meantime a lead of 8.9 seconds, as you can see there. Nicholas Cutfield just coming through the Porsche dipper now. That shows you in real terms how big the margin or the gap is between Angus and Cutfield. And
even also talking a bit about the younger guys coming up as well. We saw, Daniel Angus's car just on the screen, that 991 Generation 2 car. We're going to have a couple of, or 2 or 3 young Kiwis going over and competing in the Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge Championship, which utilises that car this year, Rusty. The likes of Tom Bewley, William Exton, Hunter Robb competing this year. So the 86 Championship from last year, the top sort of 3 guys will be all going hammer and tong in the Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge Australia Championship this year.
Awesome. In comes the Kensway backed entry, the 2-3-4, I should say. This is in fact Nicholas Cutfield. Everyone's wearing the Kensway sticker. So 2 minutes 43 is the stationary time. So that might seem like an eternity for these drivers, but it'll level the field, won't it, at the end? So.
And you notice they're not allowed to touch the car, so they can't do tyre pressures or anything else like that. They can hand a bottle of water to the driver, but that's about it. So all these guys know, there's the smoke off the brakes. That's the only tough thing about that. All these guys know that they've got to do pretty much almost their qualifying times to be able to win this race. So traffic plays a big part there in this race.
And we see there Daniel Angus, the leader of the race so far from the start. He's belting up those lap times, just trying to be consistent. His last lap around was a 107.9, so he's sure just doing everything he can to be consistent, delve through the traffic as swiftly as he can and try not to lose any time.
So he has been quicker than that, as you know. He's been down, I think, the 5s, that sort of thing. So obviously a bit of traffic playing there. He's sort of a couple of seconds off where he would ideally like to be. So you just see the Nick Cutfield car that's been rolled forward back there. They're allowed to do that, obviously.
Brakes,
yeah, exactly, for brakes. But the interesting thing is they've all decided to come in quite early, even the Boxsters. So a lot of them strategize that there may be some sort of safety car, some sort of incident on the track. So they usually leave it till quite late. We've still got 20 minutes to go in this race, so there's a big chunk. There we are. That's Ian Hill and his pit stop done and dusted. But yeah, that's a massive advantage. If you can stop during a safety car, of course, that's a big free kick.
I think Ashton McCorn's done his, there he is, 97, leaving the pit lane, so he's done his stop as well. Unmistakable Mo on the front of that car.
One of our teenagers racing there, who's very much in line for the class win, if he can, the overall year's end class win, if he can win this race.
There's Hill leaving the lane. We're just talking about that. So waiting to see what Daniel Angus does in response here now. So in the meantime, just as Stu pondered what people might do strategically, what was the lap time? Was it 107.158? We've seen quicker, but he was pretty handy through the final sector. But I think it's just endeavoured to get on with it and maybe hope for a clearer lane when he stops.
Yeah, yes, and there's Max down there. We saw shots of him last time. He'll be trying to figure out so that he comes out with a nice clean shot, but very difficult with a long lap stop time like that. Yeah, very difficult to
and the only risk of staying out longer, obviously, is if the other cars have completed their compulsory pit stop and then we see a safety car. Could really hurt that lead that Daniel Angus has got. So he's got to be a little bit careful on how long he decides to stay out. Obviously, at the moment, the chances of a safety car are probably pretty low because everyone started to sort of spread out a little bit.
Exactly, you're right. Yeah, the safety car risk is probably near the start, when they're all 4 wide, 3 wide, this sort of thing. So there's Stephen Stokes and those little Rothmans painted car. You remember those from the 70s?
Iconic.
Yeah. Are we allowed to even say that these days?
Well, we know what you mean. I think most people we can't openly promote it. We're not doing that. We're merely talking about history. In the meantime, let's just quickly, lads, just get an update from Stephen McIver in the lane.
Yeah, I heard you talking about what Dan Angus is up to. I was talking to his engineer, Max, about that before the race started. They feel like they've got the Motorsport trophy in their bag, but they want the Pirelli trophy, and they're basically up against Stephen Fang, and I'm sure Stu can confirm this, but basically what they're going to do, I said, what's your rubber like? lots of rubber. We want to try and pass the boxes 3 times because of that 3 minute 28 CPS, and then but they honestly are admitting they need a safety car if they want to win that Pirelli trophy. Stu will confirm.
Well, that's it. That's this. Yes, there's so many variables in this, of course, massive variables. And the big thing is, as I said, the most important thing for both Stephen Fang and Daniel Angus is they've got to put the consistent low lap times in very close to their quali time. So that's the challenge.
And it is really cool to see some of these, you know, even some of the Boxsters are running some of these iconic Porsche liveries. We even see there Stephen Fang's car's running that almost sort of factory Porsche sort of iteration livery from Le Mans a few years ago. And what you're saying before, we see there the Rothmans liveried car in the background. There was that period through the 1980s where the Rothmans Porsche system just annihilated everything before it at Le Mans. And I think there was a period Porsche won 7 in a row at Le Mans, and, you know, who's to say they'll ever be beat?
Dominant era, wasn't it, back then? Yeah. I mean, look, these guys love it. They're only, you know, fun. That's it for these guys. It's half the fun is dressing up the car, making it look cool. We've seen the Golf car out there, Kelly McEwen's car. That's always very distinctive, that light blue and orange. Always very cool to look at.
Reminiscent of the Porsche 917Ks from the early 70s, and Steve McQueen sort of really made those cars famous, didn't he?
We even had a 944 that was painted as the Pink Pig, and you've got to be a real Le Mans, you know, closet sort of watcher of that the whole time. The Pink Pig was the Le Mans winning cars, and it was painted pink, and it was divided up like pork cuts. So we had one of those as well.
It had a bit of a short snout, that car, the 917-20 back in the early 70s.
See what you did there, that's very clever.
Right, here's a shot of Stephen Fang there a moment ago. So still, you know, the order when you look at the timing monitor to the left of your screen, you need to keep in the back of your mind that we still need all of the stops to play out, and then we'll get an adjusted order, and where people that have longer stops need to come through the field. So naturally, Nicholas Cutfield, whatever that was, 2.5 minutes or something in the pit lane, he's last in the order, but will gradually over the remaining 15 minutes come through the field to an extent. Let's see where it ultimately shakes out.
So yeah, I think you noticed there some of the boxes getting quite wavery, start wagging their tails in the corner. Their tyres are brilliant. They're more of a road tyre, very much a road tyre. We've done that deliberately, and they come on almost instantly. So the moment you leave the pits, they're working, they're great. But 6-7 laps in, they start to get a bit gooey, and they go off quite quickly, and then it's hard to get them back.
But your tyre partner Pirelli has come forward with something that is basically what the client wants in some respects. We want them to have a good workable tyre immediately. We also want them to understand what racing is like and what does happen, don't we?
Look, that's exactly right. Controlling your lap, not being over aggressive at the start, so that you've got some tyre left in the middle of the end of the race. All that's very important. And the other thing, of course, is that we don't want to over tyre these cars. It makes them too easy to race. So we want to make them just get that little degree of difficulty there, which is quite important, I think.
Agree. So at the order at the moment is Angus with a question mark to stop, and where Daniel will ultimately shake out from the Cayman of Oliver Saxton, Steph Chambers, Tim Robinson, and Stephen Fang, currently in an excellent 5th outright.
Yeah, there's we're talking before. Stephen McIver mentioned the crew of Daniel Angus. That's Max there, talking strategy and looking at the times and figuring out, have you talked to Daniel Angus the whole time, saying, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. We've also got a breakout thing too. So if you're way quicker than your qualifying time, you can get penalised. So all of that counts.
A little wonder. I mean, what the lapping? Daniel's doing on that basis a very consistent job. Another 1 minute 7.5.
Nice work. You see his best time there, 106.7. So, yeah, he's sort of within half a second or so of his best time. Oh, no.
That's a big incident.
Struan Robinson, that's a hit, isn't it? A big hit.
That's off the exit of, or halfway through turn one there.
Yeah,
straight into the Hydrolink barriers there. That's a big off. Maybe probably a brake failure, if anything, an incident of that size and that speed.
I would have to agree. I mean, you don't normally go that fast into that point. You've slowed it down by that point, haven't you? Here we go. Yes,
that'll be a brake failure. Yeah. That was a huge hit. I really hope he's okay. That's, never nice to see.
No, Struan will be... let's see if we can see him. Let's see if we can see him moving around in there. But unfortunately, he had a couple of years ago quite a big accident in his cup car at Pukekohe, which wasn't his fault either. Something snapped in the car, so he's a little bit fated in that if it is brake failure.
Hopefully okay. We'll let the teams do their work here. Obviously, we've got that camera angle from turn 2, Ronan, but it looked like it was well off the ideal line that you'd want for one as well. So carrying big speed, question mark, maybe something wrong, and yeah.
Yeah, and the magnitude of speed at that point of the track usually indicates that a brake issue of some sort, because at that point, you know, you're traveling down this front straight at such a high speed that you then need to really arrest the car and slow it down. And at that point, you know, he's done so many laps as it was, you know, and obviously gotten through there okay. And on that lap, it just looked like, it was well out of the ordinary.
And the other thing too, of course, he was going straight ahead from the braking point. In other words, he made no attempt to turn towards the apex, did he? So that would indicate that he knew straight from there that he was he's never going to make it. Yeah, he was in trouble.
Yeah. Good to see the doors open. We saw it moving there before too. Yes. So some positive signs there. We'll let our medical team and recovery team go to work here.
Always quite tricky there. You can see them trudging through all that deep sand. It's always difficult in that situation. There's Daniel Angus, of course, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? He's dived in, Max, his crew chief, sitting there opening the door for him, letting that hot air out, and these cars get enormously hot. And he's taken advantage of that safety car, so but it'll take quite a while, I'd imagine, to extract that little Boxster from the sand there.
Yeah, we actually saw there that shot coming into turn 1 where the car almost sort of wiggled and straightened up, and it looked like he was probably trying to get the brake pedal at that point. And it's a sick feeling when you put your foot down on the pedal, and if it goes long, not to say that that's what's happened, but it's the signs very much point to something of that nature.
Oh, look, I don't know about you, but I know that feeling. I had a brake pad shear off once, you know, the backing plate sheared off, and so it's just nothing apart from back brake, and it's a horrible feeling.
Your heart almost goes in your mouth a bit because you just realise you're a passenger at that point, and there's not a lot you can do.
Exactly, you're along for the ride, and you know it's going to hurt usually.
Just a week ago, of course, the Australian Grand Prix happened at Albert Park. In Formula One, we're used to pit stops. I mean, I think the record is a 1.8. We're used to stops around the 2.5 second mark on average. So it is an eternity when you watch the clock like that for someone like a Daniel Angus to sit there for 3 minutes 28. For people that have just joined us on the Stuff Speed Hub, probably worth reminding them why in this half-hour race we do that. It is an equaliser, isn't it? And it is based on performance.
Exactly. So we look at all the times, and we do it by class, so that the slowest cars out there, and we sort of use that term guardedly because these are not slow drivers, but they're in less horsepower cars, is probably the most diplomatic way of putting it. But they have a drive-through, and then it gets everybody above that has a compulsory stop sign, so a stop time. So some of them are about 30 seconds, going all the way up to the car you can see there right now, which is 3.5 minutes. You can just see it written on the bottom right-hand side of his windscreen there. Right-hand side when you're sitting in the car looking forward. 3 minutes 28 for him. That's the longest stop because he was the fastest car today. So yes, it's staggered through that. The idea is, of course, by the end of the 30 minutes that they'll all be coming roughly across the line in similar sort of style, so that we can open it up for people like Boxster owners and that to win the class.
The race. And Ronan, just a reminder there too, I mean, we saw it with Nicholas Cutfield's car before, now again with Daniel Angus. Just the reason why they push the car backwards and forwards to ensure that we don't get those brakes with really hot temperatures kind of seizing up on discs and things like that. We've got to keep a bit of movement in it, don't we? So
yeah, and it's almost sort of to stop the disc from warping, because if it stays in one spot, you get almost like a hot spot, I guess is the way to explain it, on the rotor, and then you know that can cause inconsistencies through the pedal as you're braking, and then it becomes sort of almost, you know, the end result, you don't want it to be like what we just saw and the reason for the safety car. So anything you can do to sort of just get a little bit of movement through the brake and stop it from sort of heating and setting on one spot of the rotor.
Great explanation.
So what's made my little heart happy there is I see everybody, we talk a lot about safety car situations, so it's very easy if you're a Boxster driver to think, oh, this is never going to happen to me, I'll never be at the front of the field. Well, of course, in this situation, it's easy to be at the front of the field when a safety car gets called, so they have to know exactly what to do. And instead of all dragging behind and separating themselves, they've got to get up there behind that safety car as quickly as they can, in case there's a cup car caught behind them. So, and I see all of them were doing that, so I'm pleased to see.
Red flag. Well. Now they've red flagged this race, so we'll just get some clarification on race control about what's the underlying reason for that. We know that there's been an incident at turn 1. Recovery was happening, but they've elected to red flag the race. Field's been neutralised. It has stopped a little further back on the main straight on the the rear toward the rear of the grid. Basically, they're all line astern there at the moment. Heading the field is that car there of Chris McCormack's. So
obviously, yeah. Oh, it's good to see that. Struan Robertson, he's walking. He looks fine there, which is great. But I guess they figure that it's in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, always great to see when the driver involved in the incident walks away, and we can see that they're in one piece. So that's really the best news out of all of that, and good to see Struan Robertson's all okay. But obviously red flag conditions now while they clear up that car and that incident, and hopefully we can go back to green flag conditions soon.
So I think the Kelly McEwen car is in the pit lane, but just having a little revisit of the monitor here, I think all of the pit stops were completed. Is that right? Well, I think everyone's done their compulsory stop now.
It looks like most of them have done it.
Yeah.
So, but interesting enough, Daniel Angus has still been shown. He's obviously managed to get out in time, and he's still been shown as in first place. So I guess he had enough of a lead when he came in. Just showing that.
So hard to watch that, isn't it? Because it's decent speed.
Yeah.
The tyre wall, which may have to be adjusted, and is possibly the reason we're red at the moment.
Good call.
Just to make sure that is back and safely in its right place before a resumption of racing. But it is hard to watch it at that real speed like that. Let's go to Stephen.
Sometimes you want some fairy dust when it comes to looking for a trophy. It looks like Dan Angus, Max Siegel, has got some fairy dust. You said to us before the race started, we've got to get 3 laps ahead, but a safety car would be nice. And now you've got a safety car and a red flag. So you can really gun for this Pirelli trophy, right?
Yeah, we can. We needed to be 3 to 4 laps ahead of our closest competitor. We managed to get 2 before we pitted, which is where the safety car came in. And it was great on our purposes that it beached it at turn 1, because that's the longest time to get someone out of the giddy ladder. Gave us the longest period to regain time back. So we're on the back of the queue now, hunting someone who's halfway. So we should
Stephen, right?
Stephen Fang, yeah.
Dan's season has beyond compare. Have you seen improvement throughout the season?
Oh, he's quite gelled with the car, really. He's it's the first time in this car this season, so he has gelled with it. He's easily doing 4s or 5s if he wants to, and he's having a great time. He's getting out smiling all the time, and that's what you ask for a driver. It's good.
That's what we need, all right?
Yeah, 100%. It's great.
Well, good luck for that Pirelli trophy.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
Hey, just a little bit of update, boys, from the Bridgestone GR86 Championship. But we noted that Hugo Allen had tapped Zach Blinko in that previous race. And remember, he's a championship contender. They have gone to the stewards, and they are all clear. He does not lose points. So Hugo Allen still 26 points behind Hayden Backris.
Well done, Stephen. Thank you. But he's closed the margin based on what it was coming into the Hampton Downs round. I love that interview that Stephen did there too with Max. Just a reminder of the crafty racer skill coming in from this side of the pit wall. And okay, a little bit of luck there with an unfortunate incident and a safety car or a red flag period. But you have to be ready to capitalise on that if and when they happen.
Well, the person who's been interviewed, Max, there, he's exactly the person to think of multiple scenarios. So what do we do if A happens, if B happens, if C happens? He's actually worked V8 supercars at one stage, engineering over there, so very clever man. And Daniel Angus is lucky to have him there working out all this. He's talking to Daniel the whole time, and before he goes out, they've already got the strategy of how they're going to work and how he's going to drive, sort of lap times he's going to do. So we're very lucky to have him as part of this, our race series, and setting those sort of standards so you can see what can be done with a lot of thought going into these things.
And other teams can clearly learn from that. So it's a
well,
benefit.
they do. You can see it, and it's raised the professionalism of everybody. And we've gone from years ago just club cars, and we used to in fact roll up, put the numbers on our road cars, and go racing seriously without even roll cages. This is 30 years ago, and now these cars have a lot of these drivers have got race engineers, and they've got coaches that come with them. They're all sitting down looking at their laptops in between, going through the data, figuring out why are you 2 k's an hour slower through turn 1, and all this sort of stuff. The sort of stuff you do running all the time with drivers, and that just lifted the whole standard of the series. It's so weird. It's intense now, the competition, but it's also the awareness of the traffic and the mirrors, all those things you have to be aware of, has gone up as well. So very proud of these guys, and so sad to see something like that with the site we're seeing there now. That's going to be a big fix, isn't it?
Stuart Robertson,
that's not an easy thing to fix, but he's got a fair while. It's the end of our season now, so we don't start till probably about October, November next year. This year, later in the year. So he's got a while to get that sorted.
Yeah, probably not the way you want to bow out of the season. It's not not the ending that Struan Robinson would have been looking for. But hey, the main thing was he was safe and safe and sound, and probably a little bit disappointed, maybe a little bit bruised, but definitely glad that he walked away from that one.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's always scary to see that sort of thing happening. So thank goodness, and it just shows you not only the strength of the car, which you often talk about, it's the safety fence down there. Wasn't it brilliant the way it absorbed all that impact? Really good to see.
Yeah, 100%. And looks like the car's there on the trailer, so we shouldn't be too far away from a restart in this third and final race of the weekend for the Pirelli Porsches.
And look at that there. That's a great shot. And there's that big conveyor belt, I guess, that they put in front of the tyres. So you remember that before, we always used to have tyres around the circuit, but they didn't have the conveyor belt. And what that does is it stops the car. There you can see the tyres flying behind there. But what used to happen is the tyres would, the bumper of the car would dig in, and it would rotate the car down into the tyres, and it made it worse. It was softer than a concrete wall. So what they did was put those big conveyor belts on the front, those big rubber belts, so the car's got something to run along without being hooked up.
Yeah, and that really is, as you just iterated, Shirts, it really is a testament to the safety here and the quality of the barriers here at Hampton Downs International Motorsport Park.
So brutal when you watch it at real pace like that, but it just absolutely sort of underscore what you're both talking about there, how it when you're then in contact with that conveyor belt at that sort of angle there, it just sort of, I mean, there's definitely a decent amount of damage to that car, but in an old safety terms could have been a heck of a lot worse.
Look, it's no different to production cars, I remember, a few years ago they talked about, I'm talking a few years, 30 years ago, they talked about Japanese
Yesterday's
cars.
Stu.
Yeah, yesterday for me, last week. But they used to say, these Japanese cars, they fold up very easily. But the whole idea was compressing and absorbing impact, which is what cars have got to do these days. If you make them super, super stiff, then it's the bodies inside that absorb the impact. So, and that's what a race car is. You're bolted in, you're strapped in hard, and they have these big hits, and the impact can go into the driver.
Yeah, time certainly flies, doesn't it, guys? It's one of those things, but great to see. Time's passed now.
How about our cameraman? He's gone across the other side of the track there to some of the apartments. Is that where that vision came from?
I rated that haircut on that.
Oh, so did I.
So did I. Sitting up
you had
there.
one of those back in the day too, didn't you? Come on, own up.
Maybe when I was his age, yeah. That's
a bit of a young Ronan Murphy.
That's
a good buddy Chris on camera 7 there. He's actually over in the apartments. He does a super job for us, as do all of the next gen NZTV camera operators and those working in the outside broadcast truck. Right, the good news is clock has restarted. 8 minutes remaining. Safety cars got them fired up and rolling again. We will be underway with a sprint to the line here in the not too distant future.
Yeah, look, we can see Daniel's been shifted to the front, which is where he should have been when he left the pits, but of course there's still a whole lot of stuff to be sorted out behind him. So it looks like at this stage Stephen Fang is going to be really, he's got to get in front of those other Boxsters to get that award, although we're showing Stephen Fang in second place, but I think that's going to sort of sort itself out.
I think we'll get
minutes.
A timing update here
exactly,
once everyone crosses the line. So they've rightly, the officials done a little reset here and just got the I think particularly with everyone that all the stops having been completed, I think the order is right. You can appreciate this is a tricky set of circumstances, but we're in for a cracking run to the line here. So does Angus have effectively one hand on that trophy? Here we go.
Safety car rolls in, and it's obviously now Daniel's got to maintain that pace, and it's great to see everybody behind. They all know now that you can't weave around, different to overseas rules. You see them weaving around under the safety car overseas. Here you've got to stay in a straight line, no weaving. There's a little bit of brake warming up going there from Cam McCormick on the lime green car. He's going to want to try and get in front of those other Boxsters. Just get that draft from the great big wing on the back of that Cup car when he launches. So they pass the safety, the restart line now, and off he goes.
Daniel Angus has just shot away, and we see the Boxsters going in. There was a big hit there for Ian Hill in the 58 car.
Wow, I thought we were going to see another one then.
Yeah, that was getting pretty hectic there off the line, and They've all bunched together again. We can see the 2, 3, 4 car of Nicholas Cupfield trying to weave his way through, but the Boxsters are putting on a show.
Just their usual side-by-side stuff there, but as you say, look at Nick Cupfield caught up in the middle of that, the big wing of that car, so distinctive as it comes through all those little Boxsters.
Yeah, we see there the number 97 car of Ashton McCorn was right in the mix there, having a big old war of battles with Ian Hill there in the 58 car.
He's holding on though, isn't he? And that's still a little 2.5 Boxer, so he could get just swamped there with the 2.7s.
Oh, someone having a little lose at the dipper there, right at the tail of the field manages to keep it going. I think, was that Simon Thurlow maybe in the Apple livery?
Was, yeah, down the aptly named Porsche dipper there.
The 718 car there of Oliver Saxton is getting into it with Nicholas Cupfield there as they have a bit of a drag race coming back up the front straight. We're almost clicking down to 5 minutes to go. Daniel Angus is already checked out, and he's well past turn 1 as we see Oliver Saxton now going down the inside.
There we go. There's our timing updating showing Oliver Saxton in 2nd place now. So that's actually what you see on there is exactly what the situation is now.
22.
You hear those down changes, those beautiful Boxer motors coming through up over the top of turn 2 and 3. There's Stephen Fang there. He's in the middle of this pack. He's got a bit of work to do to catch up to Oliver Saxton, but at the moment coming through turn 4.
Not only that, is he's got people behind him. He's trying to fend off as well. As you know, that always interferes with your lap time.
Steph Chambers, I think, was that going off a little bit there. Just minor, only in a minor way. In fact,
dropped a wheel.
Yep. Just with all that traffic to kind of navigate. So Angus with a margin of 12.2 seconds already. Here comes Cutfield, but it's a bit more of a process for Cutfield just to find the right moment to get through some of these Boxsters.
Yeah, you're right. He didn't have that clear air that Daniel Angus had. Daniel's got basically a full 3 laps or so before he catches anybody now.
Now he's clear. Now Cutfield can bolt after him. So now let's have a little look at that incident which made Ronan's heart rate go up. Talk us through this. Let's have a look here.
Yeah, so it was I think it was a bit of evasive manoeuvring, to be honest, if anything, Rusty. He's, was just trying to avoid making contact with, by the looks of it, I think it was Jacob Bellamy.
It was, yep.
You can see, so he did a great job to take the evasive manoeuvre and avoid any contact. And Steph Chambers there in the number 42 car, she's starting to make her way through the field. She looked like she got displaced on the last lap going up towards turn 5, but done a good job gathering things up and starting to make some progress.
She's probably got about 2 laps left to try and get through. She's massive horsepower advantage here, probably 150 horsepower advantage, something like that, over the little Boxsters. But obviously, it's always disconcerting when you drive a Boxster versus a Cup car, because the Boxsters stop even better than the Cup cars do. They're a lot lighter, they're not going so fast into the corner to start with, and their braking is so short. So you always got to calculate all that when you're driving a faster Cup car. You've got to work that in.
And that's the challenge. It is the challenge of this class, isn't it, Stu, to try and navigate the cars that are at a bit of a pace disadvantage, to try and navigate your way through, try not to lose any time to the cars you are racing, and try and move forward.
They're already showing Steph Chambers in 3rd place. So then Stephen Fang, and he's just been relegated back. Chris Taylor is now. So this is the car. We can just see on screen there, the little black car.
Oh, Robinson's hustling the 944 through there. And this is for position. So he's managed to take a sort of shallower line through 1, kept the pace up, car bounced through the corner, and that's for 4th spot. Taylor's on the outside in the 101. The 944 in the hands of Tim Robinson. I met the family this morning while we were grabbing a coffee, and so this is good battle. Boxster, V944.
Allowing Stephen Fang there, the car behind, to catch up as well, while these guys are going side by side. It does slow them up. So up and over into the Porsche dipper. This is a blind corner when you're coming up at that crest. It's always tricky. You can't see the apex. It's always hard to judge the speed that you're coming into that.
You're absolutely right, though, about Stephen Fang coming into the mix. While they squabble, look what he's doing in the background there in the 88. So keep in mind, he's got a bigger game to play, doesn't he? So this is important. If he can somehow clear Chris Taylor, good piece of driving from Simon Fang.
and they won't be easy. So Chris Taylor and Stephen have been battling for the last couple of rounds, and they've been sort of swapping wins. So Chris Taylor, won this morning. He won this morning's race. So let's see what he can do there. But look at these two, the 944 and the Boxster Coupe, two very different cars, but just so evenly matched around here.
Yeah, and now we've clocked under a minute to go in this final race of the weekend for the Pirelli Porsche New Zealand Championship, and it certainly has been action-packed to say the least. And we are seeing some of the boxes coming up over the top, turn 2 and 3. They're up over the rise. We saw at the start of the broadcast, when we're going over the track map, there's about 10 metres of elevation at the circuit, Rusty, and it's certainly great to see all these guys. We see there Daniel Angus going up over that rise on the final lap. He's going to be taking the checkered flag the next time around.
So behind him, he's out in clear air. It's all calm going on in that car, but behind him, it's all frantic. So Chris Taylor and Tim Robertson still battling out behind him.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Nicholas Cupfield's really lost out in all of this in this race. He's dropped back to 10th, so he's immersed in the battle of the Boxsters. But Oliver Saxton and Stephanie Chambers have certainly profited out of whatever's been going on for him. Maybe just unfortunately lost a bit of time through when he decided to pit.
Exactly, he didn't have that opportunity, did he? Oh, and we just seen on the timing zone that Tim Robinson has got ahead, so he's now up in the 4th place. On the
checkered flag, he's going to do it. The three-peat this weekend. Great outing here at Hampton Downs for Daniel Angus. Untouched, takes the victory in our half hour, our more endurance spec race to complete the weekend for Pirelli Porsche. Oliver Saxton, this is a good drive. The 718 is going to take second in this race.
Yeah, great job from Oliver Saxton there to take second, but Nicholas Cupfield's coming up to try and take some more time off him, but he hasn't managed to do it coming across the line, and that completes the race there for Oliver Saxton, one of the more elder statesmen of the championship, but he's done a great job to come home in 2nd place.
Here we go. It's still happening here for the 777's managed to get ahead of Stephen Fang, and he is ahead of Chris Taylor. So Fang is ahead of Taylor, and little squirmy around goes the 944 in the final corner. We could hear Robinson, we could hear the tyres squealing, but we weren't sure which car it was.
And Stephen Fang had to take evasive action to miss that car. They looked like there was a little bit of a contact on the right.
Taylor
right.
got it back. You're absolutely right. Look what it's done to Fang. He's dropped right back with that evasive action.
Yeah, evasive manoeuvres, and didn't quite work out. And Stephen Fang certainly lost out of that one, and a little bit of damage in the final lap's never nice. And he did look like he lost that position back to Chris Taylor.
Whew, so a bit of work to sort of numbers to crunch in the wake of all of that. But I think one thing is for certain: it has been a tremendous season for Daniel Angus, and congratulations to all of the various class winners, shall we say. There will be some rightful champagne sprayed for them in Pirelli Porsche. Here's the final race results. Daniel Angus takes it from Saxton. Good job and congratulations to Steph Chambers in 3rd there. Taylor, amazingly, despite being passed by Fang in the build-up to the final corner, gets back ahead to take 4th outright. Fang is home in 5th, and then we drop back. Unfortunately for Tim Robinson, he was knocking on the door of a top 4 finish had it not been for that lose or that incident in the final corner. Here's the remainder of results for you, with Ashton McCorn in 13th position. Daniel Gross is 11th. Mark McCorn got to a brilliant 8th place finish, so we need to sort of get the grey matter in order here in terms of the class winners and so on. Highlights for you of Pirelli Porsche New Zealand, race 3 of the weekend with a compulsory pit stop thrown in, half an hour of competition. Angus got away nicely at the start, and then around went Daniel Gross in the 944, but it seemed to be on his own. He would then have to fight back through the field up in front. Angus set about building a margin of a couple of laps with that quicker Porsche before the lane would become a hive of activity for the compulsory stops. That was the plan that he and his team had worked on in the build-up to try and amass that advantage. And then this would ultimately bring out a safety car and a red flag. Really decent incident into the barrier, thankfully walked away okay, but with some work to do to repair that car. We got racing once again. Bit of a frantic run to the line. Cutfield kept chasing, but no stopping Daniel Angus, who would take it out in the end. 3 from 3 here at Hampton Downs. All right, so Stu, we thank you for your help in commentary, and it's been fantastic to have you guys on the tour with us this year, and we're looking forward to an even bigger and better season next year.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thanks so much. Great to join you guys.